in the state. So I just came back yesterday. I don't have any requisition to present tonight. They're in draft format, so we still are reviewing the requisitions for both the MEC and the Norfolk Police. And the summary sheet that I handed out, I guess the biggest issue in the last 2 weeks is the town requested that I prepare a change order with the roof panels. That's change order summary number 30, PCO number 35, which is listed. The PCO number 34 was the one that we talked about 2 weeks ago. It was the $1,500 for the change of the top of the wall. So I did prepare a change order, and the change orders for those two items, PCO 34 and PCO 35.
I have a motion. Do you want to make a motion? I don't know if I'm doing this right.
Sure.
To approve the change order in the amount of $369,535.91.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
So the change order just needs the town signature. It has mine and it has Mike's signature on it.
I'll ask Mr. Hathaway to do that. And do you know what the estimated request is for the monthly payment?
Yes, I do have the draft. $554,752.46.
What was that, like 5?
Say
it again, please.
554,752.46. So I think if you wanted to do a not to exceed, that would be the maximum.
What's that for?
The monthly requisition. Make a motion to approve a amount not to exceed $554,752.46 upon review of the architect.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I mean, I haven't seen any documentation to support that.
That was,
You're closer to this, Matt, and you're on it on a daily basis. Is that number
That's-
right? Is it
there's a little bit that
comfortable with that number?
it's the monthly requisition for all the sub-trades and the general contractor with the materials. I know there is one little piece that you're working on, but if it's not that, it's going to be very close to that.
And BC Construction, they provided, prior to be shown on the payment application, a proposed change order, so that we had a chance to review that.
So typically I look for something from McGuire that they've looked at it.
Jim, would you like me, I have a copy upstairs of the, would you like to see it real quick?
Oh,
Here is a copy if you want to see a copy.
well, I don't want to get too sidetracked on this, but my degree of unhappiness is going up exponentially every day on this project. And I hold both of you responsible for that. Just make that known. There are a lot of things about this that got me pretty angry, that should not have happened, that have happened. We need to fix this really quickly, and this nonsense needs to stop. And I'll be more than happy privately to be specific with you if you'd like.
Anybody else?
That number included the change order.
It included a percentage of the change order, but it included
Like,
$285,000 of the total.
so Jim, that number, just to break that up,
It's fine.
okay?
My issue isn't with that number.
So, he seconded it?
You did.
I did, yes.
Okay. No further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
So where are we with the timing of this? Are we on schedule?
They move it right along.
I mean, I was up there yesterday.
I kind of disagree just a little bit that there hasn't been any progress since the last meeting that we had here. The cells are built. The rough plumbing is started. All the mains are being put in. The sprinkler system is being put in. All the blocking outside the building is completed. The roof huggers are on the building. Almost one entire side of the roof is done. 3/4 of the building is encapsulated. And we're working across the front, which we hope to have finished by Friday. So quite a bit has happened in the last couple of weeks. And the entire roof package was delivered. But all the roof huggers and all that situation, which was very time consuming, has been completed. So it's very difficult to see from the ground. If we put you up in a lift, you'll see. Also, the EPDM roofs have been installed on the elevator, the front entrance. All the window measurements have been taken. All the door measurements for the aluminum doors have all been taken this week, so they can go into production. There's a tremendous amount of electrical work in the electrical panels that have been installed. And that, all that wasn't in place at the last time we had a board meeting.
Now, you said you had, yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, yes.
You said, I think you said you had 19 subs? Is that the right number?
There's about 18.
Or
I
18 or
think,
19
give or
subs coming
take.
in. Have they run into any issues associated with the plans versus what needs to get done? Anything significant?
We just had a couple issues in the cell area, which the architect is working on. As of, from the last meeting, that's basically the ones that have come up, is just some electrical versus plumbing in the cell areas.
Nothing significant?
Nothing significant at this time.
There is no electrical for any of the cell fixtures, so we're gonna have to run electrical on the plumbing chases and core through the solid walls.
What do you mean there's no electrical?
All the penile fixtures have to have solenoids in them so they can remotely flush them or be able to deactivate the water. So they all need to have power, and they need to be able to do it remotely, so that way if somebody's misbehaving, the shift officer person can turn off the water, or they can flush it if somebody doesn't want to. That all takes power. It wasn't in the drawings, so there's no power there. The walls are solid, so they have to core in from behind the plumbing chase to add that. Then we also have to come up with how they're going to control it from where the officer is monitoring them, so that way they can deactivate the water flow if they don't want prisoners flooding the building. So I imagine it's going to be many thousands.
And one other positive note, Chairman, is that the town had all the lines scoped today. And we met with the contractor. So all the storm drains that we need for the property, all scoped very well. They're in great condition. And we just have a few fixtures that we'll go over with Matt that'll have to be rectified. But that was a positive sign. We definitely needed to know that.
And there's more structures that they found that weren't on the drawings. So we have to figure out what the heck they're doing.
Yeah, that's odd.
What's that?
Say that again?
So they installed more than it was on the plans?
There was a couple extra manholes there that were not on the plans that were on the site.
Because the plans that we went from were the approved plans from your planning department, so that's interesting.
So
But
the good thing is
condition of the structures and everything is excellent. That's really positive.
we have to do modifications, like where the tower's going, and we have to also retie in. These are, the majority of what we're worried about is right on the building, for where the rain, the downspouts go into it, and there's 12-inch PVC that runs the entire back of the building, and probably 2/3 of the front of the building, and it actually does the entire front of the building, but it jogs, but we didn't know what condition they were in, if we were going to be able to tie it back into them. So in order to know, and it's all buried, I had a company come in and they jetted the lines, and then they video scoped them, and we were able to check out all the drop-ins and the mains, and that was positive news. And I had them check everywhere there was a manhole to see what it did and where it went. So, which is good news, that it was in good shape, but there are structures that I didn't talk to them at the end of the day, and I had to follow up with them because they found more structures than were drawn. So,
Brian, where do we stand with the septic?
It's in the hands of the Mass DEP. We're waiting for a response from them.
I mean, a couple other things that came up as well was the fire alarm panel, plans were updated. We didn't have the updates. Cole went over the plan, myself with the electrical contractor the other day, so there's gonna be some changes with that weren't on the plan. Like the mech area, the dispatch area didn't have any strobe or anything in that room, so that needs to be taken care of, along with some other changes. They weren't huge, but I don't know what it's gonna cost. And then the door to the electric room was reversed. It needs to be going in the opposite direction, which I guess was on a different plan, and we didn't see the updated plan that was wrong, so we were basing it on the original plans.
Anything else, Bob?
No, not right now.
There's a cricket fixture that's going to be an issue, which it's basically
roof.
it's part of the roof, and it deflects the water from the elevator shaft. I've seen that back and forth. It doesn't appear that, what I can see, anybody owns it. So that's going to be extra, and they have to build this structure, and then there's only the company, because they had the panel manufacturer come out and they had me talk to them. The cricket has to tie in a specific way, or else they won't warranty the roof panels how it sits. So they put BC in touch with the manufacturer of the crickets, and they sent the measurements, and they're going to have the cricket built. So that'll be, I imagine, a change order and the installation of it.
Wasn't on the drawings?
There was
There's a
one line.
There's a cricket on the drawings. This all has to do with who owns it. It's on the drawings, and there's a claim, just like the roof panels, that even though it's on the drawings, no one owns it.
There wasn't assigned anybody on the drawings.
That's really not the big point, who owns it, even though the architect, we sent an RFI to the architect. The architect said the file roof subbidder owns it. File subbidder said he doesn't own it. We had the manufacturer of the panels out here, as I've told everybody for several months, when we were getting to the installation of these panels. It's wise to have the manufacturer come out at my expense to review the installation procedures, make sure everything is going in according to the way that they want it done. He came out to the site, we had the building inspector come out, and we had Matt come out. He explained certain situations that he wasn't comfortable with. One of them was the way that the cricket was designed in the plans, that it doesn't meet the specification required for that unit, because those roof panels have seams in it. That cricket has to literally fit over those panels and lock into the roofing system. They have a manufacturer that makes them for that roof system. So he gave us the number to contact, we contacted him, and like Matt said, we've been going back and forth with him, making sure the shop drawings are correct, that they're sending us, and they required measurements. That came in last night, we worked on it today before we left the site. Tonight, I'll forward that information along to him, but you just can't arbitrarily build your own cricket. It has to meet the manufacturer's warranty specification. What was in the plans doesn't come close. And that's it.
So, believe it or not, I understood what you said. Thank you. Hard to
I
believe.
tried.
So simplistically, what you're saying is that are you saying that the plans were not specific enough to identify this issue, or are you saying this is just a function of the way it goes? I mean, why are we responsible for this?
The plans do not specifically say that this has to be done per the panel manufacturer's
But wouldn't
specifications.
the was this sub-bid, this component?
It was part of the filed sub-bidders package,
So why wouldn't the person that bid that know that?
because how would he know what panel you're using until after the contractor,
But why wouldn't he anticipate that in his bid?
because each panel manufacturer is different,
I thought
their roof systems are different.
I didn't
I
think that the
understand
filed
that.
subbidder, the filed subbidder said he never had any ownership of that.
That's correct.
He said,
That
what, Matt?
was,
He had no ownership of that, and Greenwood Industries, so they supplied all the drawings, all the colors, all the choices, and they were approved. And there was no mention ever of a cricket in there, or any color, anything, so.
You're saying it's in the drawings, and now you're saying it's not?
There's a drawing there, but then there's no ownership assigned. And when they submitted their materials and their selections to the firm architect, there was no mention of it on, and there was, now it's, they did all the submittals, and everything was approved. No mention, so they're saying that, and they showed where they feel that they don't own it. So,
Very complicated trade we're in. And what happens is, if we get submittals from a roofing contractor, we don't know if they're all the submittals or some of the submittals. We get them in when they submit them. They might submit the EPDM roof one week, and then they'll submit trim another week. So we don't always say, where's everything you own? We wait for the submittals.
But isn't it your role in this process, when we started this, to review all those bids and to ensure that all those dots are connected? Isn't that your role?
We are responsible for all the instructions for this entire project, for everybody that's on the job. All of the instructions have to come from us.
Then how can this be missed?
We felt that we had adequate instructions on our drawings for a cricket to be there, just as we felt we had enough instructions for the roof panels to be there.
Well, somebody's wrong.
And, you know my opinion.
Okay.
we haven't gotten to the bottom of it.
I'm sorry?
We have not gotten to the bottom of it. At my risk, I've already started the process to make sure we get the material here, because it needs to be done,
And we appreciate that.
and then we can hash it out. But the fact of the matter is, that stuff, it's required. What was shown in the plans was inadequate for the panel, bottom line.
And that's Mike's opinion. So, that's why we,
Anything else, Matt?
What is it I'm looking at here?
This is what PC Construction provided, that's the PCO for the roof, that they provide that.
Oh, I'm not questioning that, no.
Just in case you want to have a
No,
copy.
no, not that. No,
I think
I'm
he's-
no, we're talking the cricket right now.
no, I'm
Question in the
well versed on
And
that.
the other thing I'm
Thank you.
aware of is, there's some fire alarm issues, I don't know the scope of them, and the guy that needs to have the floor is not here right now, he got called out, so there is gonna be some more issues, change orders with that, I don't know the scope, I don't know if you're fully aware of the scope.
we reissued drawings on July 30th. If there was any cost impact to the revised drawings, we don't know of that yet. And there was a follow-up meeting last week where some additional devices have been identified that we need to update those drawings.
And there is a change order coming through for about $13,000 from the fire protection company, because they have to relocate the fire main for the second floor down to the first floor.
Why?
That would be a MEC change order.
That's gonna be under the MEC? They had it, well, can you explain why though, just so they know?
The way the fire suppression system in the dispatch area was designed is they had it running under the beams.
That would be the MEC.
and everything flows and drains to the perimeter walls, and the mains would have to go under the beam. When you're looking at that room, it would lower the pipes too low, and you could actually, it'd be between 6.5 and 7 feet off the floor if we had to go under the beams.
That's gonna be our change order. How's the mech responsible for the fire suppression for the building?
Because that's part of the alternate.
But the building would have to be fit out with sprinklers whether they were there or not.
But the pre-action, well, we could talk about it. There's a pre-action system because of the dispatch center.
So the English version of that is they require something in excess of what we would normally do?
This pre-action system is because you have a dispatch center there. Because the only change has to do with the dispatch center. And we looked at that design, and we felt that we could get the piping higher into the roof. But in order to do that, we have to provide a system within each bay. We can't bring piping between the bays anymore. So we're putting a system in, and then we're dropping down through the slab in each bay. And we can get all the piping higher into the roof area. Because it's a pre-action system in that space, all of the piping has to drain. So we have to design it from a high point to a low point. So there was a redesign in the fire suppression system for the dispatch center.
So somebody's gonna be paying $13,000 for that.
We're reviewing the costs on that.
Do you have, one thing I met with Al and Todd Lindmark today. One of the major expenses on this project is the project management costs. We've spent a fortune to date, and one of the things we're out of is money to continue the level of service that we have. So I'm asking the board for permission to go along with, I'd like to cut the clerk's hours from, right now it's 40 hours or less, down to 10 hours per week, and the project manager down to 2 hours per week for normal review, and anything above and beyond that needs additional review to let us know ahead of time so we can okay it, because we were getting upwards of $28,000 a month worth of invoices, which we don't have. So by cutting them down, it would go down to about $1,500 a week, which I'd love to have more, but they were heavy in the beginning when we didn't really need them, and when we really could use them, it's just gone so far over. So I propose we cut them down. And I was also going to propose that I have 2 guys starting doing excavation work on the 23rd. So any T&M stuff that if CDR McGuire is not there, I just ask that I give my guys permission to sign any slips for them to be checked in with and checked out. That way we still have verification to protect us. But so I'm asking to drop their hours and give additional hours as needed, as warranted. So just want everybody's approval on that.
All right. We need a motion on that, or just approval? I mean...
I don't know if we need
I think he's making a motion.
I'm making a motion to drop their hours down.
Yep.
And if it gets into a situation where we need to adjust it again, come back to the board, but limit hours, because...
Yep, okay.
I'll second.
Second, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous.
There's going to be a selectman thing, but I just want to let you know that we've been looking into doing solar panels on the roof. Bob's talked to Brian today about relocating the waste vents, which will be an extra, I would imagine, but I don't imagine it's too much money. Soil pipe up in the ceiling. So I'd like to fill that roof, but do it with a PPA, which means we're not laying any cash out. They do it, and we sign a 20-year lease. Their estimate with the size roof that we have and the efficiency of panels today, we could probably get about a quarter of the energy consumptions at 7 cents a watt, which is probably about 10 cents at today's rate. Once you add in 7 cents a kilowatt, once you add in transmission, because the town's in We have a great energy purchase price. Bob signed us up, and we're doing well there, but they're killing us on transmission charge and everything, so this will save thousands of dollars. Their anticipated savings is about $500,000 over 20 years. So, I want to let you guys know I want to do that, or we want to do that.
Just as a quick aside, that is now on the agenda for the selectmen for Thursday. We haven't finalized the agenda.
Okay.
Until the end of the day to finalize it, so.
All right, another thing that we've worked with the police department and the IT department, and the police have had some assistance on this from outside help. We don't have a line left for any budget for any technology. We had a $200,000 line set aside for integrated technology / cameras, video surveillance, and security of the building, access control. And then we had a $75,000 allowance for computers, whatnot. Yeah, access controls and the security came in at $360-some thousand, so that not only wiped out both lines, it's backwards. So, working with the IT department, trying to get the plans ball rolling, and the police department, they've done an audit of the equipment they currently have. So the intent is to bring over all the equipment that's salvageable. There's a couple of computers that are as old as I am, and so buy minimal new computers, but they're going to need computer, like workstations. They're going to need a special camera for the intake of prisoners. They have to have a specific one. A fingerprinting machine with a little side piece, which we need to do a cell phone amplifier. We need to build a Wi-Fi network. The provisions are there for the wiring, but we still need to put the network together. We have to put a phone system in there with recording capabilities. We need to buy printers. We need to lease copiers. We need to buy servers. And this is utilizing what we've already spec'd in to the IT stuff. There are some servers and switches, but it's not enough for the entire system. We also need to have somebody set it all up. It's too much for one employee to do on top of their other things, so we're going to have assistance on this. I have a number that I think is pretty comfortable. It's $150,000 when you add it all up. We don't have a line for that, but we need to start buying equipment so they can start getting things ready for when it does go live. I don't know how I don't think we have a contingency left, but we need to buy the equipment. And it's something that it's not a want, it's a need, and I've sat down with the IT director. I know he spent many hours with the police chiefs trying to make this as minimal, but so it's comprehensive enough to run the station. So I make a motion that we somehow create a budget that we can start spending down, or create a line for $150,000.
Well, I'll second it for purposes of discussion.
Okay. I assume you have discussion, Jim.
Seems to be my day, my turn, huh?
Why not?
Mike, to you, I had asked you a while back when you thought you might have a handle on what the total cost of this project might be. I think I asked you both that question. And you were telling, I think if I recall, you said you should know by April, by the end of
By
April.
the end of April,
By the end of April.
because we'll have most of the people on site by then.
Okay. So if Mr. Chairman, if we didn't meet the 24th, we met the week after, that gets us to the end of April. Would you be in a position to give us that estimate?
I can
I
certainly...
mean, I understand it could be a 2% deviation or something like that, but I mean, if you can get within 2%, that's pretty good.
I'll do the best I can for you.
That would be very helpful. Because right now, I don't know what that number is.
Unfortunately. And Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, like it did, this week was another thing that was unknown to most of us that are involved in the project about the fire alarm system. Totally unaware that there was issues until we had a meeting last Thursday. And those kind of things, they pop up, and there's a cost associated with it. Although people think that they're minor, if we don't handle them now, things like that can get out of control.
No disagreement with me. I mean, this is not my first rodeo with this. I mean, that's why we have contingencies, and that's why we build them in, and there are always going to be certain percentages of change orders that take place in any project. I got that. I mean, and George has chaired a building project as well, so we're not unfamiliar with, no argument about that. There will be those. But we're having a lot of those. And that's my issue, is that it's,
That's what I think I'm trying
we're
to
well beyond the
convey.
2.5% that we normally would put in a project for change orders.
And
Right. How many, besides you, how many filed subbidders are working to date? How many trades?
I believe we're up to 7 now.
And how many more are coming?
There's at least another 7.
So there's a chance that each one of them is going to have an issue.
Well, if you would agree, Mr. Chairman, if we could have our next meeting after the end of April, because I think that's critical right now. I mean, I'm struggling with every decision we make when I don't understand what the potential exposure is at the back end. And I don't know what that is. And no one knows what that is what I'm hearing. So,
I was speaking to Al earlier, and would you say it was 11% in change orders up
that's
to
the
this
number I've
point?
heard.
That's only on the roof and there's more than that in change orders, and
Total change order today is 617,000 on 5.5 million.
That's 11%.
That includes the roof.
and we're also going to end up having a lot, one thing we haven't talked about is I did, and I do want to own up to this, I made a mistake and I cost a change order myself.
Welcome to the club.
I made an error and out of not following both sets of plans, and you'll see a change order there's a change order 37, which is for 4,300 and change. That was my mistake. We had to buy light pole bases. I reviewed the drawings. It said to be provided by the contractor, so I asked the contractor to buy it, and he did say, as long as I get paid, and I said, you get paid. And I didn't understand that, and he was basically telling me that wasn't part of his scope, and I said, no, and I thought he was misreading it. It was my fault, so there is overhead and profit on that, but it's not huge, but it was a mistake, because it was in the addendum that overwrites that it was taken off the contractor, put onto the owner. But there are significant change orders coming up. Just the electrical and
I
that,
want that number.
but we need, I don't know if at the end of it, I think he's being very optimistic, because until they start getting involved in getting site conditions, that gives them to show up and figure it out. They're not going to notice all these things until they start going.
When do you want to meet? May 1st is Tuesday, correct?
Yeah.
It is.
it's
Election day.
Or
I
should you
don't
make
know
it the 8th?
that affects us any, but,
What's that?
let's say the election, but that doesn't affect us. We
No,
Is
we
it-
can still meet.
Still meet.
Can't we? I don't. Is there,
Yeah, no, there's no,
I've heard this rumor that boards can't meet on election day, but I think that's a rumor.
I've never heard that before.
Okay.
When is town?
Meeting's the 8th, so we can't meet.
Yeah,
the
town
8th.
meeting's the
The
8th.
8th.
Everybody's crazed trying to get
Yeah.
ready for town meeting.
Oh, no, I know that. No, it's fine, yeah.
May 1st. yeah.
May 1st is fine by me.
Good by you, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Hopefully we'll have a wraparound number. I mean, you still have your Tuesday meetings, right?
Every other Tuesday, yes. So you want some relatively good news?
If we could use some.
That would be a pleasant surprise.
Have you guys looked across the street over at 117 Main Street?
Yes, as a
Yes.
matter of fact.
Looks pretty good, huh?
It does.
So,
And all the surrounding buildings are still standing.
To the best of our knowledge.
so that ended up with bringing in some fill and bringing in fill and grading it all off with equipment with our labor. Had Lopes bringing
Yeah, it looks good.
that ended up being about 105,000. So, two
Good
questions.
news.
Two questions. Should I hydroseed it so it keeps the dust control down? Just try it.
I would rely on Mr. Bullock.
There's a cost for that if it's a couple.
Of course there is.
There's always a cost. That's why I'm asking. Do you think it's worthwhile?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of fill is it?
It was the soil there was what was there beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's loomy stuff.
it's healthy. I mean, it's not the best, but it's not that bad.
Loomy stuff.
It's gonna grow grass with hydro seeding. It's not gonna do as well if we just try to seed it ourselves, because,
Right.
It'll hold the moisture with the seed.
yeah. And then we're thinking about putting some white pines along between the church and the property, just to kind of give it a border. Either that or, I talked to Bob McGee today, either that or like a peach tree or something that's gonna give some color. But just something to throw in there, but it's up to you guys if you wanna spend the money to do it.
The fears is that when we go to apply for the next permit, that they might want to change seeing that that'll be freshly planted, they might want to have their own input on the, what's planted there for aesthetics.
Well, you're just trying to get through the summer, right? Pretty much.
Yeah,
All intents and purposes,
as long as we're gonna
just trying
start
to
in
get
the
through
fall.
summer.
So
Yeah.
propose we at least try to get
Just some sort of.
the most
cheap
economical
ground
hydro
cover.
seed.
Cheap
Yeah.
ground
Well,
cover.
just hydro seed the
Yeah.
thing and forget it.
We're not looking
All right.
for Augusta
Okay,
National.
so-
And we talked,
I mean, we lived with the moonscape for 20 years. I mean, those of us that remember the
they
moonscape.
also had to seed it. They were supposed to seed it.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
okay,
mean, just whatever the minimum is to
Right.
just to,
prevent problems. I mean,
and here's the other question. That fence is paid for. It was the same cost for a month as a year. I can either pull that fence and have it removed, or I can keep it for, till next February. I kind of like having it there to keep people off the site.
why would we not keep it if it
Just
doesn't cost us
aesthetics.
a dime to do it?
It was amazing when if you ever want to have
Chief, you're the safety guy, wouldn't you agree?
Well, and then I'm gonna bring up another point that my deputy reminded me is that back wall is kinda high, so as a safety issue. And I think Bob would probably make a ruling on that, right?
Yeah, that's kind of natural, so I don't know.
well,
I think I'd let it go.
wooded,
but,
and we have
you
a
know.
snow fence back there.
Huh?
It's wooded area, and we have
Yeah,
a
it's a
snow
wooded
fence.
area, it's not like a walking area. It's when it's a walking area that, anything over 4 feet, you're supposed to have a fence, so I wouldn't, it's not where someone should be. Is that mine?
But there is, we did, as a preventative measure, we put up the orange plastic fencing back there to encapsulate the area. And there's no need for somebody to be back there.
Yeah.
Why not leave it?
Leave it up.
All right.
You're gonna need it for construction anyway, aren't you?
Well, that's,
Eventually.
eventually, yeah, I mean, it'll be under the
Hopefully it'll be in a year.
general contractor's scope, but you could
I mean, right
probably,
now, it defines the border, so you can
Right.
tell where it is.
Yeah.
Not the prettiest fence in the world, but,
It's okay.
it does
People
define
out.
the border.
and, I'd like to request a amended set of plans with all the amendments on it, because we're all scratching our head trying to figure out what's going on. Could we have actually two sets? I don't think we were given the full allotment anyway for the contract.
Whenever we make a change, we have to incorporate a sketch, or we revise a drawing, and then we reissue it to the contractor through an ASI, called an ASI. So we can give you the whole file of the ASIs, because some are 8.5 by 11, 11 by 17, some are full-size drawings. But that's how, the bid set remains the bid set. And then anything that gets supplemented onto that is in the form of a sketch.
Okay.
So, yes, you can have access to all of the ASIs that have been issued, but that's all of the supplemental instructions that we've been giving to the contractor.
All right, and the civil plans for the underground, I do need that still.
I can give you that. Is PDF?
I prefer it in full print. It's much easier to look at than trying to move my monitor around, and PDF, but prefer a couple of sets so I can give it to my site guys. I can have a set, Bob can have a set. I'd ideally like 3 or 4 sets.
Chief,
If we could, again, I spoke to you briefly yesterday, Brian, we need a accurate set of fire alarm plans, so that when it comes time for us to do the acceptance test, we know what we're looking at. The
I have one set for you today.
Perfect, thank you very much.
I'm good.
you're good. You good, Jim?
How did you mean that question?
Well, do you have any more issues? We don't need any details on the other part.
Actually, George, are there any updates on the fire station design?
Just that we're still progressing with Scheme C.
Do you have anything?
No, I pretty much covered it. so.
I just, the one on the computer request, we have to run, I'm I'm not great with computers, believe me, or systems, but you have to run like a parallel system for a little while so that Ton or can make sure that our computer systems work. We did a server for the phone system that will be part of, should be part of the project. Some of that stuff is what's adding up to that 150. I mean, there's some other issues, but, printers, copiers, we have a lot of workstations, but some of them are like 10 years old. In computer life, that's 100 years old, So, it's just not, we got to be able to operate, because when all's said and done, Cole's going to still need to operate at his building, and we're going to be in a separate building. So we need some systems, and we have to leave some systems. So, that's what part of that request was about, so.
I don't think, did we ever vote on that? I know Jim seconded it, but
No, we talked about it, but
can we,
Why don't you make the motion then?
can I make a motion? I feel that the technology for the building is going to be about $150,000, all said and done, for phones, copiers, workstations, fingerprints, everything. Make a motion to exceed, not to exceed $150,000, and we will start getting the equipment that we can test and build and have set up for this project ahead of time. We will obviously, anything that gets spent will have Jack's double signature on it, like everything else I'm doing. Anything that we're spending, having Jack keep an eye on it, and we're running budgets. Todd Lindmark keeping an eye on all that. There's not a line for it, but we do need to do it. So I make a motion to not to exceed $150,000 for necessary equipment to outfit the station.
Do we have a second?
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Just a follow-up on that.
Yep.
Some of that, we're going to spend a little bit of that in like June and July, so that they can start working on running that parallel server and making sure that it's processing correctly.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can explain it, but not being a computer guy, but it's supposed to make sure that it's going to work, so that when we move it down there,
Yeah.
it can just be set up and be working just as good as it did before it left. So that's part of the deal, but we're not going to spend the whole 150 in the next month. It's
No, I
really,
understand.
really, if we spent 25% of that, I'd be surprised, but.
Anything else? All right, so the next meeting is set for May 1st, 4 o'clock. Okay, I guess, meeting's adjourned.